An administration officer at the MSF hospital in Kunduz, Faizullah recalls the night of horror when he thought he was going to die under the deluge of bombs. He sees the patients and his colleagues, decapitated, burnt alive in their beds, directly targeted as they attempted to escape the buildings in flames. Faizullah hid in this corner with a doctor, who died just a few minutes later.
I tried a lot to take his dead body out of the site to prevent him from burning, but it's the only thing that really hurts me. That he died, and after that he burned, and everybody burned.
The US Army immediately took responsibility for the attack, and the President of the United States apologized to Médecins Sans Frontières.
MSF's first reaction was to keep the door open by calling for an inquiry to establish how it could have been possible for an American plane to bomb an MSF hospital for over 1 hour and to kill 42 people.
In April 2016, the American Army released the findings of its own investigation. It concluded that the attack on the hospital in Kunduz was the result of a series of errors. Their report tells us that the US military considered that all civilians had fled Kunduz and only the Taliban remained, which in effect turned the whole town into hostile territory. The hospital was supposedly mistaken for a military target, an error caused by a cascade of human and technical failures. So the hospital in Kunduz was bombed by mistake, a version of the facts that is contested by MSF, which considered that this was no cascade of errors, but rather a cascade of conscious decisions for which the hospital paid an extremely heavy price.
Ce concept de légitime défense préventive appliqué à toute une partie d'une ville.
The concept of preventative self-defense applied to a whole area of the town, which they had decided to recapture militarily, led to all-out war there. Their assumption that it was an open battlefield and that the civilians who were left couldn't just be civilians, they had to be combatants, militants, and that anything that continued to function had to be direct material support for those combatants.
At the time of the attack, the town of Kunduz had just been captured by the Taliban, which triggered a counter-offensive by the Afghan military with backing from US forces. The day of the airstrike, the hospital was providing care to 105 patients, some of them disarmed fighters. At the beginning of October, Médecins Sans Frontières' international president addressed the members of the United Nations Security Council 5 months after the adoption of the resolution supposed to guarantee protection of civilians and medical care in times of war.
In an age where counterterrorism shapes war, a license to kill has been issued. We call on you all, again, to revoke this license. Revoke it, whether or not your enemies are receiving the medical care that you attack. Because throwing medical impartiality to the wind is also becoming a new norm of warfare.